In my restless dreams, I see that game. Silent Hill. You promised me to tell me everything about this game someday, but you never did. Well, you have the making of now, in your special DVD, just waiting for you. James.
This is where Silent Hill 2 was created, here in Tokyo, somewhere on the 42nd floor of these buildings. Counting the graphics designers, programmers and musicians, over 50 people worked for nearly 2 years on this project. But Silent Hill 2 would not have come to light without these three: Imamura, the producer, Sato, in charge of designing the characters and cinematic visuals, and Yamaoka, who created the sound and music. All three are very ingenious, but they say it's like being married, because they all worked together on the first Silent Hill. But for Silent Hill 2 they've gone much further, because Silent Hill 2 is a lot more than just a horror game, more a terrible love story.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see
Every
me.
detail of the game is conceived to shake you up mentally and emotionally.
I'm here for you, James. See? I'm real.
This is the artistry of these alchemists of the emotions. Backgrounds in Silent Hill are based on a concept of simultaneous repulsion and attraction. That's one way to define their impact. Strangely enough, they look nasty and disgust us, but also they have their own kind of charm, which is just the effect that the art director was trying to achieve, of course.
嫌なんだけども、その場にいたくないんだけども、なんか興味をそそられてしまうっていうか、そのさっきも言いましたけど、その異様な感じですか。
Before creating the images for these grim visual backgrounds, Tsuboyama went to shoot a few stills. It may sound odd, but these stills are perhaps the most important images of all. The bathroom was the very first room modelled by the art director. This was the first image created for the visual background. In a way, it served as the graphics Bible for creating the other visual backgrounds. It's no accident if the players start the game indoors.
Mary, could you really be in this town?
A different rationale applied to the exterior visual backgrounds. The idea was to give the impression that the city is larger than you'd imagined. Certain sequences that might seem overlong were inserted deliberately to convey a feeling of isolation.
まず最初のその展望台から森までは一度その街に着いたら引き返せないような距離を出すことによってその孤独感とか不安感とかその隔離された街に来てしまったっていう感じとかっていうのを出したかったんでゲーム的には かなり危険で挑戦してみた部分ではあるんですけど、わざとあれだけの距離を。
In addition, they used a grainy filter to dirty the images while giving them character. Here's what Silent Hill 2 would have looked like if its creators had not used this ingenious process. Always trying to take us by surprise, the graphics designers had fun planting a few disturbing elements throughout the game that go unnoticed at first. For instance, there's that body in front of the television. You don't realise it, but you know that face.
ジェームスなんですよ、あそこは。あの死体は実はジェームスが作り出したジェームスなんで、逆に見せちゃいけない。
Another image from James's brain. That dress on the tailor's dummy holding the flashlight. You've seen that dress before. It's Mary's. All of these mysterious details come together to form a visual background ideal for conveying impressions of solitude, suggesting a parallel dimension, the perfect substrate for showcasing such elaborate and ambiguous characters. Of course, it's James, the hero of Silent Hill 2, but just like in the first Silent Hill, the main character does not have the key role.
Mary?
Maria is a fascinating woman who epitomizes the ambiguity of Silent Hill 2.
I don't look like a ghost, do I?
Disturbing and sometimes looks cute. And there's no specific model of her.
With her disturbing ambivalence, the Maria character has much more appeal than other heroines.
Don't ever leave me alone. You're supposed to take care of me. So...
For example, the one of Final Fantasy the movie.
Yeah.
Sato explains why.
She ran away.
That main girl character doesn't have a wrinkle and doesn't have a kind of a bad point. She is kind of perfect. For example, if you are attracted by some woman, she's not perfect. If you take her pictures, sometimes her face is like that. It's not perfect, but if always she's perfect, I guess you want love her. You are in love with her because she's human. She has a character. That character has a bad point. Of course, bad point and good point. They didn't make that, but it's more real than Silent Hill 2nd. From visual or technique point of view. But I think I made more realistic work.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
No.
So Maria is a woman who has her weak points, but takes full responsibility for them. She flaunts her tummy with a little roll of flab.
Your face, your voice, just your hair and clothes are different.
Doesn't try to conceal the brown spots on her skin. Cheats with respect to some parts of the body.
I think she is a brunette. She's not blonde. She dyed, red, and she dyed, she bleached.
These details make her seem very real, a woman with appeal. Sato explains, actually Maria was sexier when we first started out, but her plunging neckline gave us too many technical problems and we weren't happy with the way the graphics looked. A body like that isn't much without a lively, expressive face. So Sato threw himself into his work on this part of the animation.
I tried to act sexy in front of a mirror and, just open half the eyes and move the, under lip sexier like that, in the office. That was perfect.
As a matter of fact, to obtain better results in face animation, Sato did not resort to motion capture.
I couldn't trust the face motion capture. That motion capture system took just the position of the skin. If you open the mouth, muscles around here is tighten, but a motion capture cannot capture it. But if I make them in front of mirror, I can notice it. I can capture it. That's most of most biggest reason.
By doing the animation by hand, you can combine dozens of expressions and come up with just the right one, even the most absurd. On the other hand, motion capture was used for the body sequences. In other words, these motions were carefully thought out, or rather, carefully observed. The actress playing Maria struck poses that would turn the head of any red-blooded male player. The animators simply had to transpose these sexy poses.
Cut.
For the finishing touch, all they needed was a voice that would bring the face to life. Between 50 and 60 people from Japan and the United States were auditioned, and only 5 of them were hired. By the way, the same persons who made the motion capture.
What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me. I was almost killed back there.
Killing a person ain't no...
You must be thinking 5? That's funny. There are 6 characters. That's easy to explain. The same person played Maria and Mary. Once again, it's no accident.
Same polygon structure of a face. Exactly same. A little bit skull shape is different. And Maria can make Mary's face. Mary can make Maria's face. But gimmick of the face, like a skeleton and muscle structure, is a little bit different.
Now, unlike James, Angela is really bizarre. In the game, she's supposed to be 16 or 17. She doesn't look like a teenager.
It's not, usual teenagers. One has something, I think, and I try to, make her face special, has something inside. Then, that's why I made, these lines, these shadows. She has a kind of a Schwarzenegger mouth, and try to make her face animation, a little bit uncomfortable.
Lost?
That makes her look more older.
The design team aimed to make Angela look older and opted for an older voice. The actress playing Angela is about 40.
It's you! I'm sorry.
Last but not least, there's Eddie. Excuse me. Whose creation was kind of funny. Who, for your information, doesn't know about it. Fortunately, he only borrowed his friend's physical characteristics because Eddie is maybe the most deranged of all. He appears heavy and clumsy due to a number of subtle details.
You killed him?
His pupil a little bit wider, opened a little bit wider from another characters. His eye direction is another direction. And his eyes move a little fast compared to other characters. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Why not? Till now I always let people walk all over me. Just like that stupid dog. He had it coming too.
Eddie?
An in-depth study of human emotions, passionate attention to detail, and perfect casting. There lies the secret of the characters in Silent Hill 2. But the monsters are every bit as ambiguous. The creatures in Silent Hill 2 are not your run-of-the-mill horror game monsters. They have no horns, no tentacles, no supernatural powers. They're monstrous because their shapes suggest deformed human features.
モンスターを、考える上でまず最初にテーマとしたことが人間のパーツをモンスターのどこかに必ず取り入れてでそこからプレイヤーがモンスターを見てできるだけ元は人なんだっていうところを想像させた上でそこでモンスターが人間とはちょっと違う例えば体が折れすぎてしまうとか這いつくばって早く移動するであるとかそういうギャップにしたんで例えば酔っ払ってる人とかは普段とちょっと違う動きとかしますよね。そういう意味ではそれに類する例えばなんかちっちゃい子が頭が大きいからバランス崩して歩くとかそういったのを主に参考に。
But sometimes inspiration strikes when least expected.
あれ実際に腕が入ってるんですけど上からラバーのようなもので包まれて腕が自由の利かないっていうのを表現したんですけどあれは最初にあれを思いついた時はですね知り合いのプログラマーの人が当時僕の席に遊びに来てたんですけど日本のジャージでポッケに手を入れるジャージがあるじゃないですかほっかむようについてるでそこになんか手入れてこんなことしながらちょっとすみませんノリノリな気分で来たわけですよ。でその動きを見てなんかそこからヒントを得て発想したんですけどね。
Of course, Ito's references were not merely anecdotal. He also drew inspiration from his favourite artist, the Irish painter Francis Bacon, whose tormented features influenced the visual world of Silent Hill. But the most striking and original creation is indisputably the triangle-headed monster. Ito draws with such ease you might think he got the result he wanted straight away. But what he was looking for was a monster with a hidden face. Like that, it was less human and therefore more disturbing. His first idea was this monster. Then he realised that it was nothing but a human in a mask. So then he took the concept further, giving him a head in the shape of a triangle. He explains it this way.
この三角形の痛々しい感じであるとかがまさに裏設定を説明する上で適当な形だった。
Once the monsters had been created, all they needed were a few bizarre, disturbing monster noises and some choice musical sequences. This was a job for the sound designer Yamaoka.
僕が自分でサウンドをクリエイトする時って特にその映画を見たり何かのサウンドを聞いてインスピレーションっていうのは僕はあまりそういうのはないんですね。自分で作りたいと思ってサウンド、ギター持って例えばこう弾いて自分の中で納得するまで時間をかけて作るっていうことですかね。そうですね。きっかけっていうのは特になくて、テーマソングに関して言えば3日間ぐらいずっと家にこうずっとこう弾いていたっていうのはあります。
It's a theme that conveys the melancholy of Silent Hill 2, which, like the game itself, plays with unlikely combinations.
毎回違うよ。普通のゲームっていうのとね、普通のゲーム、メロディーってサウンドの中でのメロディーっていうのは僕特にその重要視っていうのはある程度は重要なんですけど、その特に重要視っていうのはしてなくて、例えば悲しいメロディーに強いリズム、今回のテーマソングだと悲しいメロディーに強いリズムっていうのを僕はすごくそれを今回はテーマに自分で作ってたんですけど、その聞いた人が悲しくなったり楽しくなったりっていうのはというよりもこのサウンドを聞いてその人のメンタル的なところが何かが揺れたりとかっていう何かがこう動くっていうことは僕はそれは求めてちょっとそういうふうな作風にはちょっとしています。
Yamaoka also produced all the sound effects, a total of 50 sounds, not counting the nuances. To prevent repetition, he created hundreds of footstep sounds for the characters. They too break with the sound rules applicable to the horror survival game.
あの辺の、バイオとか僕が思うにはやっぱりより新しいサウンドとかそれ新しいサウンドがいいっていうわけではないんですけど、やっぱりある論理的なフォーマットに乗った、例えばクラシカルな編成とかそういう論理的なフォーマットに乗っかったサウンドだと思うんですね。僕はもうそういうのはつまらないと思ってる方なんで、常に新しくて斬新で何が一番その聞き手がとって何が一番こうなんていうんですかね、聞いていて耳から入ってきた聴覚から入ってきたものがどういうふうに刺激になるのかっていうより刺激的なものっていうのを求めてるんで、彼のサウンドは別にそれはそれでいいと思うんですけど、その論理的なフォーマットとノットサウンドと、クリエイトした新しくクリエイトしたサウンドのそこが僕は一番違うと思ってます。
This being said, however, Yamaoka is too good a musician not to know that silence is sometimes the best sound of all.
やっぱりなんていうんですかね、無音サウンドが聞こえてること自体がサウンドが鳴ってるってことが演出だけじゃなくてサウンドが鳴っていないっていう、その前後、例えば前がガーッと鳴っててトンと音が抜けてガッと鳴り出すとか、その鳴っていないっていうこともその一つのサウンドの演出、サウンドの仕事だったりと僕は思います。
The audio track of Silent Hill 2, like the graphics and animation, succeeds in creating an oppressive world, mysterious and completely original. But all of these technical exploits should not obscure what makes Silent Hill 2 a work of genius: the fear. Silent Hill had another major strength in that it invented a new type of fear.
その役が難しいと思うんですけど、ゾクゾクするというか、不安でしょうがない、わからないと、自分の周りに ちょっと先に何者かいるかもしれない。そこにいるモンスターがそれでどんなやつなのかもわからない。とにかくわからないことっていうのが怖いことだと思いますね。
The creative people pushed their analysis much further. This feeling of psychological terror, specific to Silent Hill 2, was the product of serious brainstorming about the human mind and heart.
Psychological horror has to shake human's heart, deeply. Shaking people's heart deeply means uncover people's core emotion and their core motivation for life. Everybody is thinking and concerning about sex and death every day. And if we want to scare or shake or touch the users or spectators, then we have to think about sex and death deeply. To make like a death scene, somebody died or monsters died, or if we made that kind of scene, we try to mix erotic essence. This is kind of a visual and core concept.
You can see it in these images of dead nurses with their short skirts and low necklines. You can see it in the images of disembodied legs, or in this suggestive scene, Angela's tragedy.
How do you know about that?
And of course Maria's ambiguity, icy cold like death,
I'm not your Mary.
and suddenly sensual.
So, you're Maria?
I am. If you want me to be.
To conclude, let's look at one of the most important scenes in Silent Hill 2, and that's the prison scene.
James, honey, did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
ここに関しては結構僕自身も個人的に思い入れのあるシーンで、シナリオの段階からシナリオのミーティングから結構僕もここはいろいろアイデアを出してたシーンで、マリア、見た目はマリアなんですけど、なんかちょっと不思議なちょっとメアリーっぽい会話をするシーンですよね。それでその辺のユーザーが多分混乱すると思うんですけど、そのマリアなんだけどメアリーなんじゃないかっていうその不思議さっていうのをすごく出したかったシーンですね。
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made.
そうですね、メアリー、初めはメアリーっぽい時は今までは割とマリアはセクシーな態度をとってたわけじゃないですか。でも、セクシーさのないようなポーズを心がけました。
I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
Then we get to the big scene, the one where in the same shot Maria, who was playing at being Mary, becomes Maria again.
I'm not your Mary.
Notice how the sound of her voice becomes more carnal, how her gestures become sensuous again.
I am. If you want me to be.
Never has horror been more poetic. Never has our emotional ambiguity been so skillfully exploited. The creators of Silent Hill are artists, and their game is a work of art. It's as real as this hand touching your face.
I'm real.
So why not take another look at Silent Hill 2?
こちらスネーク、聞こえるかオタコン。
ああ、聞こえるよ。だけど僕はオタコンじゃない。僕は小島秀夫だ。
何？
スネーク、実はまずいことになっているんだ。何者かが何かを企んでいるようなんだ。彼らはメタルギアソリッドが単なるフィクションであるっていう証拠をつかもうとしている。
奴らの正体を調べる必要があるな。
ああ、そうだ。彼らはついさっきこのディスクを送りつけてきた。もしかしたらこの中に答えが隠されているかもしれない。まあおおよその見当がついていると思うかね。スネークらしき男が出てくると。コートをかぶって雨に打たれながら、男が歩いてくるんですけど、これがスネークかどうかっていう、それがユーザーの期待につながるんですよ。で、スネークかどうかを知りたい、ユーザーは知りたいんですけど、まだわからないですよね。でその、手がかりがタバコでタバコを捨てた時にスネークが見えるはずなんですけども、ステルスになってまた消えちゃうと。でここでまたユーザーの、期待をこうちょっと裏切って、で飛び込んで、着地した時に初めて実体化して、スネークが煽りで映って、そこでタイトルが出るっていうことで、あそこまでは前作をプレイしたスネークが大好きな人たちの、感情を揺さぶる、そういう導入部分です。
Who could have imagined that the most feverishly awaited video game in the world was born here? For 3 long years, behind closed doors equipped with protection systems, Hideo Kojima and his team worked in absolute secrecy on their project, shaping it with creative fire and anxiety. The original team of 15 grew to 70 to wrap up the most ambitious video game project of the early 21st century. Baffling twists, spectacular cinematic direction, charismatic characters, suspense and emotion. Never has a video game been so close to the world of film.
Are you gone?
かくれんぼとその缶切りという、遊びがありまして、今の子供はあまりやってないと思うんですけども、非常にこう友達と役割分担する、ことでですね、一転してこう逆転の立場になるんですよ。でその辺の緊張感というのが非常に面白くて、今もそうですけど子供とかくれんぼはよくやるんですけど、非常に好きな遊びですね。どこでもできて、手軽な面白いゲームというか。
And that's where the revolutionary concept of infiltration originated. Kojima wanted to follow up on the success of his first opus, MGS1, but not by simply coming out with a new and improved version. He decided to perpetrate a sort of hoax.
シナリオが2本動いていまして、最初の段階で、単価ではなかったです。空母編っていうものが最初に、考えて、空母編といわゆる移動する、閉鎖空間というか、そういうのがまずやりたかったと、それだけではちょっと物足らないということで、同時にもう一つそのプラントっていう海上施設っていう、前作はアラスカでしたけども、今回はその海の上に立つ、ある種の閉鎖空間というのを、設定して、でその2つのお話が同時に走ってたんですけども、でどっちを取ろうかっていう時にその2つを融合させた結果になりました。
Not only that, but Kojima and his team managed to slip in a few cinematographic references.
冗談なんですけど、前回がデイブとハルで、2001年宇宙の旅だったんで、今回は、冒頭タンカーなんで、タンカーといえば当時は「タイタニック」が流行った後だったんで、ジャックとローズ。
Jack, do you remember what day tomorrow is?
What is it, Rose? Talk to me.
Here's another anecdote about the early development days. In the first episode, Lego were used to construct the levels. For the sequel, however, they were only used to define the volumes of the 2 action locations. During this phase, Mr. Kojima also tackled the writing of the script. Nothing was missing from this 800-page document. This was back in November 1998. Now his team could really roll up its sleeves and get to work. To motivate everybody, Kojima and the assistant director came up with what might be called an American-style idea.
特に企画の当初、先ほど話したように、上から下へ、情報が降りるだけじゃないんで、それぞれからまずアイデアを吸収したいということで、そういうノート、アイデアノートっていうのを作りまして、1日に最低でも1個以上、これが結構大変なんですけど、何か考えてこう 書くんですよね。で、そういうたくさん溜まったアイデアの中から、監督の方が全部帳面を見てですね、これは非常に素晴らしいとか、これはもう一つかなで、そういう形でとりあえずふるいをかけて OK になったものをちょっと作り始めてみるんですけど、そこからもですねまたそれで OK にならずに、作っていく過程で面白くなかったらそれでまたどんどん落とされていきますし、でもうちょっと面白いアイデアなかったかとまた帳面を紐解いてみたりとかですね、そういう行ったり来たりで非常にああいうアイデアノートっていうのは開発の初期に、役に立つ、作り方だったと思います。
For instance, the idea of bombs that you defuse by freezing them with a special spray came out of these magic notebooks. So did the idea of being able to look around the corner of a wall to see better. All of these ideas were submitted by team members and approved by Mr. Kojima. So the concept has been finalised and the team thoroughly briefed. Now it's time to explore one of the game's greatest strengths, its realism. Before going into production, the KCEJ team went on location to do pre-production shots. They first went to New York to get shots that would give a clear idea of the setting. The team also toured ships whose design and colours would be scrupulously reproduced. Although the accurate reproduction of photographs is important, Mr. Kojima wanted Metal Gear Solid 2 to convey the sensations of dampness, cold and wind. Early in the development stage, this grand ambition was not really attained, as you can see on these first images. Then, gradually, the team refined its work. For instance, let's take the clever idea of the raindrops splashing on Snake's shoulders. And yes, the drops actually belong to the original character model, which avoids lots of useless calculations. To continue on the subject of effects, let's stop for a few seconds to contemplate the realistic treatment of water. The impression of immersion is perfect, notably owing to the presence of an incredible quantity of bubbles. These test runs for the flooding don't appear in the final game, but the initial intention was to use them.
E3 とかで映像であったと思うんですけども、スネークが濁流に追われるシーンっていうのがあったと思うんですけども、あれは最終的にボツになりました。技術的にはできたんですけども、ゲーム的に非常に淡白なものになってしまったというのがあります。逃げるだけで、濁流に捕まると、ゲームオーバーになってしまうということで、それは泣く泣くというか、一番最後ですけども、ボツになります。
All of these settings and effects are very fine, but they wouldn't be worth much if you couldn't play with them. Mr. Kojima wanted to plunge players into a lifelike and realistic world. He wanted them to be able to exert a concrete influence on their surroundings. So a lot of time was spent modelling individual components. A great deal of attention was paid to the realism of weapons reproduction, both in the offices and on the motion capture set. And while we're on the subject of motion capture, the most comprehensive experimentation focused on the behavior of soldiers. The military consultant who worked on MGS1, Mr. Mori, was back for MGS2 and was able to avoid certain errors.
前作もそうだったんですけど、今作も、軍事アドバイザーを一人つけましてですね、その非常にそういう兵隊の動きに、詳しい人物に実際モーションキャプチャーに立ち会ってもらいまして、でそういう時には銃はどう構えるんだ、で我々結構映画から影響を受けてるんでね、銃を構えると、まさにジェームズ・ボンドのようにこういう形で構えるんですけど、実際には銃は、銃口を上に向けたりはしないと、非常に危険なものなんで、銃は下に、下げた状態でこういう形で構えて、スタンディングを取る。
Furthermore, Mr. Mori gave explanations for these small gestures of silent communication, such as the little tap on the back.
この規模の単価を制御するには最低何人必要なんだ。コンピューター制御だから18人くらいかな。
To help programmers better understand soldiers' behavior, Mr. Mori had them act out situations in the corridors of Konami. As we can see, no stone was left unturned to achieve ultra-realistic behavior, but that still wasn't enough.
戦闘中にプレイヤーを挑発するような行動とか、そういう行動を入れてくれっていうこともあったんですけども、結局モーションの量の都合とか戦闘中の都合であるとか、そういうところで入らなかったものっていうのはかなり多いようですね。リアクションですけど、はい。
Now that the setting is finalized and the enemies are ready to attack, it's time for the stars to make their entrance.
.一番最初に監督が今度どうしようかという話があって、その時に美少年を出そうっていうのが出てきたんですけど、監督が美少年や美少年やって言って、なんか最初冗談かなと思ったんですけどね。
We too thought it was a joke when after we'd played for 2 or 3 hours, we suddenly found ourselves playing as Raiden. This was a daring decision made by Mr. Kojima. He wanted to give the players a new perspective of Snake.
あとはやっぱりスネークっていうキャラクターをもう少し、深みを持たせたかったというのがありまして、どうしてもプレイヤーにしてしまうと自分なんですよね。スネークイコール自分っていうことになってくると、あまりキャラクターを描けない、そのプレイヤーに、従ってしまいますから、新しいキャラクターをプレイヤーにすることで、すごく、スネークを客観的に見ることができると。スネークが、それによって非常にかっこよくも見えるし、偉大にも見えるし、ということですね。でその結果前作よりも非常にスネークをかっこよく思ったと思うんですよ。でその辺の仕掛けの効果だと思います。
Snake! Been waiting long?
To enable players to identify with Raiden, his character was designed with particular care.
ライデンのキャラクターに関しては真っ白なキャラクター、スネークでない、新しいキャラクターなんで、しんちゃんと打ち合わせして、真っ白なキャラクターでいきましょうということで、その、純粋純白な、カラーが白っていうことです。
What the hell is that?
Yes, Raiden, it's your hair. And if, like me and some other people, you think all this design work left him looking a little effeminate, especially the eyes, then I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
Foxhound, sir.
Foxhound?
女性を描こうという気はないですから、おそらくトータルとしてそういうふうに見えるんじゃないかなと思います。ただ セクシーな部分は欲しいんで、それがライデンであろうとスネークであろうとセクシーに見える方がベストだと思います。
Talking about sexy characters, Vamp is perhaps the best example.
Then he's all mine.
最初監督が吸血鬼を出すんや、これまた冗談かなみたいな形だったんですけども、確か最初は女性だったんですよ。バンプっていうキャラクターになる前にフォーチューンっていうキャラクターがその次に生まれて、女性と女性でこうなっちゃうと面白くないなっていうので男に変更しました。
Here's what Vamp might have looked like if we decided to keep the woman character. But it didn't take Yoji Shinkawa long to find a masculine source of inspiration.
黒い髪でロン毛にしたいっていうのは最初あったんですけど、でそれでイメージで描いてたら、ある日フラメンコのホアキン・カルテスっていうじゃないですか、それにそっくりだっていうのに気づいてですね、でそれを見て研究しました。
By the way, the music you're about to hear is a passage of the Vamp theme. As you know, Solidus and Snake came from the same cell, so the same physical model was used for their faces. Only the textures changed. When Yoji Shinkawa drew the face for Solidus, he was trying to imagine the way Snake's would look when he was 5 or 10 years older. But the most striking thing about Solidus is his armor.
そのエグゾスケルトンをどうしてもやりたかったっていうのが、こんな本当はねここまではいかないけど、このぐらいロボット的なパワードスーツっていうのが日本の文化としてあるんですけども、でここまでやっちゃうと、メタルギアでここまでやっちゃうと、あまりにも飛びすぎちゃってるので、ある程度メタルギアの世界の中でのリアリティを目指したパワードスーツというか強化骨格を、変えたんですよ。でその辺を、見てもらえたら嬉しいですね。
On the other hand, Olga is inspired by a character from MGS1 that you might have been expecting to see in MGS2.
オルガをメリルとイメージでダブらせて登場させたかったんですよ。でスネークは一瞬ためらいますよね、オルガを見た瞬間に。でそれはメリルとイメージが重なるんで、銃を向けて、両手を上げろと。
制御室、通信室、機関室も含め全て成立。
But subsequently, Olga appears much more professional than Meryl had been.
で両手を上げろと言って、銃を掘って、オルガは腰に、銃を隠してるんですけども、それを、スネークは感づいて、こちらに回れって言うんですけども、その辺の駆け引きが、両方とも、いわゆる戦闘のプロっていうのを、ユーザーの人に非常に最初の段階で分かってもらいたかったんで。
両手を上げろ。銃を捨てろ。海にな。他に武器は腰のナイフも捨てろ。違う、海に捨てろ。その位置で回るんだ。ゆっくりな。
プロのようね。
あれはですね、いわゆる日本の時代劇のノリなんですよ。 時代劇とか、何でしょう、西部劇ですかね、対峙してて、銃から手を離して、風が流れてて一瞬時間が止まる、そういう感覚です。
雨が止んだ。この国も捨てたもんじゃないわね。
One character seems out of place in this world of warriors, and that's Rose.
Rose, are you okay?
Yes, thank you. It really scared me at first, but I think I've gotten used to it.
According to Mr. Shinkawa, Rose represents Mr. Kojima's ideal woman, classy and intellectual. In fact, some of the exchanges between Rose and Raiden are inspired by Mr. Kojima's own experience.
あと4月30日っていうくだりなんですけど、あれはですね、初めてデートをした日にちなんですけども、今の奥さんにも同じこと言われて忘れてた頃があったんで、あれはどちらかというと僕の体験になりますかね。
Jack, do you remember what day tomorrow is?
That again. I'm sorry, but I still don't have a clue.
その日に、結婚前だったんですけども、今の奥さんとですね、最初に会った日に、デートの約束をしてまして、僕はすっかり忘れてて、すっぽかしたということがあって、それで非常に危ない時期がありましたけど、そういうエピソードの、まあ、裏返しというか、そんな感じです。
Finally, we come to what is perhaps the greatest character in the entire game. It was created in a very unexpected way.
一番最初に発注を受けた時は、その水中でも活動できるメタルギアっていうふうに、監督の方から話があったんですけども。前作のレックスみたいにこの肩に大砲があったりレーダーがあったり、そうすると水の中で活動できないなっていう部分で、どんどんそういう要素を表面から削ぎ落としていくと、結局こういう形になってより生物的なものになったんじゃないかなと思う。最初から恐竜っぽいのを描こうとしたんじゃなくて、結果こうなっちゃったっていう部分が大きいんですけども。
In MGS2, only one of Metal Gear Rex's weapons was kept. It was a miniature version of the cannon carried by Fortune.
I can't tell you how happy I am that you were alive after all. I knew this.
As far as the characters are concerned, it would be logical for us to stop right here. But if Mr. Kojima and his team had had a little more time, we would have been able to meet another character.
全身に入れ墨が、竜の入れ墨があって、でもともとベトナム人なんですけど、ベトナムで育ったんですけども、ベトナム育ったんじゃないですね、ベトナム人っていう設定で、チャイナタウンとかで育ったっていう、それでチャイナマンと言われてるんですけど、で体に、入れ墨があって、竜の入れ墨があって、その竜がこう外に出てきてプールの中を泳ぐっていうそういう設定でした、最初の設定。で僕もそうですけど、スタッフもジェットリーとかが好きで、ああいうキャラクターを出したかったんですよね。
The Chinaman would have been able to run on water and walk on walls like in the movie Matrix. This power finally went to Vamp, who also inherited 1/4 of the Chinaman's abilities, but the show didn't stop there.
今バンプと戦うプールがありますよね。あそこはチャイナマンと戦うはずだったんですよ、もう本来は。だからあれはチャイナマンと 本来ならばバンプではなくてチャイナマンで、体の中から竜が出て水中を泳ぎ回るっていう本当はそういう、設計でしたね。チャイナマン水中を泳ぐのが非常に得意ということで水中での戦いっていうのが最初、あったんですよね。でそこで出血するとチャイナマンが飼ってるホウジロザメがいるんで、サメにやられてしまうっていう、だから最初の設定では泳いでいくところにサメとかがいるんで、サメを血でおびき寄せて、迂回しないといけないとかそういう、ゲーム、システムでしたシステムというか、設計でしたね最初の。
Impressive, well-developed characters, directing on a par with the best action films. Now all that's missing is a score worthy of Hollywood.
Drop your gun! Not a chance.
メタルギアソリッド1で1が終わりまして、次はもうちょっと、お金かけてゴージャスなゲームを作れるな、音ももっと大規模な音が作れるなっていうふうなことを小島と話してまして、次は、ハリウッドに音楽を頼もうということになりました。それで、どの作曲家に、音楽を頼めばいいかっていうので、かなり、悩んだんですが、リプレイスメントキラーという映画を、小島と2人で見に行った時に、その音楽の躍動感とかシンセサイザーの使い方のうまさとかそういったところを、聞いてこの人を使いたいなということがありまして、ハリウッドのメディアベンチャーズに、ファンメールを送って、そこから話がスタートしました。
Next stop, the United States, to meet one of Hollywood's greatest composers, Harry Gregson Williams.
The first thing I knew about it was that I had, through the mail, I received a CD of a lot of my pieces of music from a lot of Hollywood action films. The Rock, The Replacement Killers, Armageddon, Enemy of the State. And someone had put together a lot of music of mine and put it on one CD and sent it over to me. And proposed that they would like their game to sound like and feel like a Hollywood action movie. And to do that, they'd like a film composer to do the score for Metal Gear Solid 2. So flattery will get you everywhere. And as soon as I received that CD, I realized I'd never done a video game before. Why not do it? And they seem like very decent people, so that's how I came to be doing it. All the music that I create is comes to life because of the pictures that I'm watching as I compose with films. So this is one of the reasons that this project appealed to me, because I knew that I wouldn't be composing music to moving pictures. I knew that my music would be put to the pictures eventually, but I would not see the pictures first. So I thought it would be fun to do it the other way around for once. So I had to have something to go on. So Hideo and his team described to me some scenarios and asked me to imagine the snake, or one of the characters, in a certain situation, from situations of tension, maybe being watched or watching somebody else. And he would give me a paragraph of words to describe what might happen in this scene, and I would write a minute or 2 minutes of music that I felt reflected this. I guess the main categories were action, sneaky, ambient, heroic, yeah. So if the player is playing the game and a melody starts, we can't tell what the player of the game is going to do next. So at any given moment, that music may have to be interrupted and another feeling be playing. So it was important with a lot of the music that it wasn't melodically based, just was holding a certain tension. It had light drums in it and atmospheres, so that the mood could change very quickly like this. I didn't know quite what to expect. I was amazed that of the skill at which someone in Japan, in Konami somewhere, has taken all the music that I wrote and somehow made it work with the pictures.
動くな! 両手を上げろ!
You have to admire the perfect symbiosis achieved between the music and the images. Not only that, but this particular passage was so right for this scene that it became Olga's theme. Even when you don't know it's Olga, listen closely to the first notes of the next sequence.
音楽でわかるっていうことがあるかもしれませんね。ゲームをプレイして忍者の正体が。
So each character has its own musical theme, which reveals their inner state of mind. They're like symbols, cleverly woven into the game, though some of them might need a little explanation. The first mystery to be cleared up is in the opening credits.
髪の毛の色とか目の色とか皮膚の色とかっていう、遺伝的なものが遺伝子に乗ってそれを伝えていくっていうのが前作の話だったんですけども、今作はその遺伝情報に載っていない部分、人の思想とか文化とか音楽とか歌とかですね、そういったものをどうやって伝えていくかっていうのがテーマなんですけども、その時に、過去の我々っていうのは石板とか文字とかですね、絵とか音楽も含めてなんですけども、そういうもので遺伝子に載ってないものを伝え残してきたんですよ。でそれがどんどん改変されて人から人、時代から時代に伝わっていく過程で、伝説になったり神話になったりしてきたんですよね。
Genes don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on?
To understand what comes next, you have to wait till the end of the game.
We've always kept records of our lives through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations.
Another symbolic place, the rooms of Arsenal gear, which all bear the names of digestive organs.
あれはやっぱピノキオのオマージュといいますかあまり深い意味はないんですけど、プレイヤーが巨大な、生物というか、デジタルな生物に取り込まれてそこから脱出するっていう、意図だったんで、胃袋から入って、直腸に向かって脱出を試みる。
オタコンに、エマの血がついてるんですよ、服に。でこのシーンは非常にこうスタッフ内でチーム内で揉めまして、チーム員の人は、スタッフはやっぱりその血をつけることを嫌がったんですけど、僕はやっぱりシーンにはエマの血が必要だということで、最終的につけてもらいましたけども。
What's wrong with EE? Emma? 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 Answer me!
美しく死ぬっていうことはまずないと思うので、エマも、まあ暴力によって、死んでいくっていう姿をですね、綺麗に描くつもりは全くなかったんで、オタコンにそのエマの血がついているっていう表現は最後までこう何としても入れてほしかったっていう、そういう思いがあります。
EE? Damn!
エマとオタコンの関係っていうのは非常にこうタイムラグがあるんですよね。で何年も会ってなくて、で話す機会もほとんどなかったっていうところで、エマがオタコンに対してどういう気持ちを持っているかっていう、どこまでの感情を持っているかっていうのを非常に表現しにくかったんで、そのために、その道具としてそのオウムを出したっていう、そのオウムがお兄ちゃんと呼ぶことで、そのエマがどれだけオタコンのことを思っていたかというのを、まあ、その空白の時間を埋める、ためにオウムを入れたんですよ。
But the most symbolic scene in the game is certainly this one.
Damn!
今回、ライデンが主人公なんですけども、そういう、表現手法じゃないとできなかった展開なんですよ。勝手に飛び込んでいくっていうのは、そこが非常に好きなところ。
Liquid! Stop this thing! Hey, Snake! You coming?
Thus, Snake manages to break away from the biological determinism that's been dogging him since birth, whereas Raiden, who is younger, remains the prisoner of his fate. We already see this idea in the opening credits, when the snake separates from the DNA sequence, a symbol of Snake managing to get free of his genetic origin. But the analogy between Snake and Raiden can be taken even further.
まあスネークとライデンの話ちょっとしますけど、ジャックとローズが出会ったくだりでキングコングとゴジラの話が出ると思うんですけども。
A group of middle-aged Japanese ladies came up and asked me which building it was that King Kong was climbing in the movie. I said it was probably the Chrysler building, and then you showed up and started mouthing off. You were like, no, it's the Empire State.
I said the Chrysler building was in Godzilla.
スネークというのはゴジラなんですよ。ゴジラは水爆実験によって生まれた、まあ、いわゆる人間が作り出した怪獣なんですよね。でスネークは、そのクローン人間なんでビッグボスの体細胞で作られた人間なんです。だからこれはゴジラなんです。でライデンは、キングコングです。手錠をはめられて、ローズという女の子を、まあ、その道具として使われて、都会に来たっていうか、だから2人は非常に対照的なキャラクターにしてあります。で最後はライデンは、スネークに助けられてというか、まあ、戦って、元の世界に戻ると元の人生を歩もうとするんです。でスネークはそうじゃなくてゴジラなんでメタルギアが存在する限りそれを追っかけていくっていう。
And finally, the last symbol in the game. In the following scene, Snake, the veteran who teaches everything he knows to Raiden before leaving, is Kojima.
Who or what they are.
Raiden, the apprentice, is no other than Kojima's team.
The memories you have and the role you were assigned are burdens you had to carry. It doesn't matter if they were real or not. That's never the point.
そうです。ゲームのテーマがおっしゃる通りですけど、次の世代に伝えることなんですけどね、僕はメタルギアソリッド1と2の開発において、若いスタッフにメタルギアソリッドの作り方とかノウハウとか、ソウルを、伝えたということで、メタルギアソリッド3を作るんであればその、若いスタッフに、新しいメタルギアソリッドを作ってもらいたいなとは、思ってます。
By the way, what is that?
From now on, like for Raiden, it's up to them to choose, to say yes or no to a sequel.
It's for you to decide. It's up to you.
But something tells me that the prospects are good.
So, any codec moments from you, Snake? The first one I'm seeing is...
The
next image is...
Who's gonna do Snake?
I have a Snake voice.
That's the codec.
僕だよスネーク。こんなんじゃない。
That's the main theme of Metal Gear Solid.
スネーク、実はまずいことになっている。何者かが。
Okay, that's good.